Today on the Topping Show, Representative Jasmine Crockett told her boss to hire her because she is black and goes viral on social media. The DNC is suing Donald Trump over his executive order to block non-citizens from voting in elections. A student with a 4.0 GPA is killed at a track meet and goes viral on social media. Dodge Charger outsells the Toyota Supra for the first time. It's a Dodge Charger EV, in fact. And the Polaris is recalling some of their off-road vehicles. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see, that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase. Yes, it does come with a fun Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com to learn more and see me shoot a flamethrower. Lastly, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Going over to the business part of the podcast, you have the new Dodge Charger EV outselling the Toyota Supra, and it's a little soul-crushing to think that actually happened. People are buying the Dodge Charger EV. More than the 18 people I originally projected, in fact. Now, this comes to us thanks to Motor1.com, where I will give you a visual disclaimer. You will have to see the Dodge Charger EV, which I guess it doesn't look terrible, but it's just kind of heartbreaking to think under that hood is a soulless nothingness. It's a frunk. And it's a Charger, which, let's be honest, should have a Hemi, good old V8 with a stick shift. But I partially digress. Here you can see, again, it's credited to Jeff Perez, who's a writer over there, saying, quote, the Dodge Charger EV is already outselling the Supra in 2025, but it's still far from being one of the top dogs in terms of sales. Well, yeah, no crap. Historically, the Dodge Challenger and Charger are some of the best-selling vehicles for the Chrysler Dodge portfolio, or now Stellantis. They still make hotcakes. You can't throw a brick without hitting one. The new one, I can't help but think it will, in terms of mass volume, they're going to lose money on that turd. Not a gambling man, but if I were, I'd place some money on that bet. Now here you can see the Dodge Charger, which, oh, God. It needs a powertrain swap so badly. And the logo on the front is so stupid. But that's just my 3 cents. It used to be 2 cents, but 40-year hyperinflation gotta be 3 cents. In fact, let's make it copper pennies. Those are even more rare, made before 1986 and worth probably about 7 to 10 cents per penny. But nevertheless, ADHD aside, he says, quote, the new Dodge Charger Daytona EV rolled into dealerships last year, but is finally finding footing in 2025 with strong sales results. Yeah, not strong enough for them to make a profit, I don't think, but nevertheless. Through the first 3 months of 2025, Dodge has sold 1,947 examples of these electric muscle cars. Ooh, I almost threw up, sorry. Which means it's already outpacing some of the competitors. By comparison, Toyota sold 421 Supras this year. BMW has only moved 520 examples of the Z4. Subaru has sold 802 examples of the BRZ, and Mazda has sold just 1,146 Miatas. They say, interestingly, Dodge still managed to move 1,052 units of the outgoing Charger through the first 3 months this year, though the EV accounted for 65% of Charger sales. On the flip side, Ford has sold 9,377 of the Mustangs, the real one with the good old V8 and a stick shift, not the Mustang E-Mach, which also sad that's actually selling more than the original Mustang, but I partially digress. They say Chevrolet have sold 6,947 examples of the, 6,794 examples of the Corvette so far in 2025, which represents a 20.8% decrease compared to the previous year. Easy to reverse that trend. Give us a stick shift, GM. The first Corvette generation to ever only have an automatic transmission is an abomination to the Corvette history. Now they say even Toyota sold 2,777 examples of the slow-selling GR86. A little bit of a pun there because, again, it's the clone/sister of the Subaru BRZ. Same assembly line, just collaboration between the companies. Slightly different body panels, places of plastic, and a little bit of interior differences. But yeah, we look at the heart of the engine, it's the Subaru. Hence, reliability being, not great. Now, they note that the GR86 sold first 3 months of 2025, it's the only big mover of the list with a 39.7% increase over the previous year. And here you can see some of those statistics down there, a little table I got there. Oh, another picture of the Charger. Now they say in an attempt to get more buyers through the door, Dodge recently offered a lease deal as low as $299 per month for the new Charger, as well as purchase discounts of up to $12,500. Oh my God, that's a pretty big discount, which I would argue just means you got your pricing wrong right off the bat with your MSRP or your manufacturer suggested retail pricing. You have to discount it 12,500. I mean, Dodge is the worst. Oh, Stellantis is the dumbest company when it comes to MSRP. A friend of mine, I was shocked they actually did buy a Dodge product. They bought the new Dodge Hornet, which is their SUV, which looks but nevertheless, they got it for like 11,000 off list price. Like they are, which again, I guess it makes some people feel good to get a discount, quote unquote, but to me, just signals that their pricing is all wrong, or in this case, it's just a terrible product. Well, to me, so it's sad that it's like. Now that being said, the Supra, it's also on the way out. It was never a high volume seller to begin with, and it took a couple of years. But Toyota did listen to consumers and gave us a stick shift like it should have had from the beginning. So do respect Toyota for offering that finally, doing the research, development, manufacturing to get that option into the vehicle. But I mean, again, this thing will never even be a tenth of the total volume of units sold when you had the previous generation Challenger and Charger with the gas engines, where there is almost like, what was it, the old TI music video? You can have whatever you like. I definitely just dated myself, but it's one of those things where you get, I think the entry level Charger back in the day was like 30,000 or no, 26,000. It went all the way up to like $130,000. Like the most diverse portfolio of a car when it comes to different trim levels, options for engines, and what have you. I mean, they were so popular, and you only had to have like a credit score of 100 to get one too. That also helped. But yeah, it is sad that it actually is outselling the Supra, technically speaking. Well, yeah, it is. But will this be a big volume seller for the Stellantis portfolio? I think absolutely not. But let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the Cultural Problem podcast, you have a student with a 4.0 GPA killed, and it's going viral on social media. Apparently, it was actually done at a track meet. Now, this is brought to us thanks to End Wokeness, and you definitely won't hear this on the CNN, though, I mean, only 18 people listen to that anyway. But nevertheless, End Wokeness says, quote, say his name, Austin Metcalf, Metcalf, and again, I'm not trying to butcher names, I'm not the best at pronunciation at times. He was age 17 years old. He was a high school athlete, and he had a student athlete specifically with a 4.0 GPA. He was killed in, allegedly, I have to say that, killed in cold blood by Carmelo Anthony. He says zero national outrage. And he says that because, the cliche, what it used to be, well, still is for traditional legacy media, is when it comes to, murder and alleged murder, whatever. But when it comes to people taking each other's lives, more often than not, the media does not care if it's African American on white. But if you reverse it, it is a national story for about 18 months of the year, well, multiple years. And we've seen this phenomenon more time and time again. One of the most famous ones in Texas was it last year? There's a school shooting in which, typical school shootings in terms of the media is trying to push, though not statistically always accurate, is a white shooter. In that case, they'll cover it for years and use it for propaganda to pass more anti-gun laws and disarm law-abiding citizens. However, in Arlington, Texas, there's an instance where an African-American student shot up some of the school and took some lives. They didn't get more than about half a day talk on CNN as soon as the story broke about the race of the perpetrator. And again, I'm not alone in this analysis, but I don't think that's a coincidence. And this is one of those viral things, and Wokeness has posted in a couple of weeks. It's got 17 million views as well as 215,000 likes. And I think so many people resonate and they agree with these types of posts because, again, we've seen time and time again. And again, I think every case should be treated similarly. If you have a student take another life as a student, if you obviously have to prove it in court, I'm a big fan of very harsh penalties when it comes to taking someone's life. And there should be national outrage every time this happens. Again, this is someone, not to sound like a grandpa, this is a young youth. I mean, this guy had a lot of, literally his whole life ahead of him, student athlete, 4.0 GPA, which is not an easy feat. And all that potential is not gone. So again, I think there should be more national outrage when it comes to people having their lives taken away prematurely. And yet, when we look at CNN, MSNBC, I would argue even Fox News, you really only see the outrage when it's one area, when I think it should be all treated equally. Now, according to the comments, one of the top ones is Gunther Eagleman. Now, he says, quote, imagine if the roles reversed. This would be riots in the streets. Sickening gave 4.8 thousand likes. I believe they call them mostly peaceful protests on the CNN. Barefoot Pregnant says, I was going to say good profile. You know exactly what's up with her life. Makes sense. She is, in fact, pregnant. But I do not know what types of shoes she wears. Does not delineate that in the profile picture. But nevertheless, she says, quote, Austin Metcalf's tragic death deserves more attention and justice, getting 214 likes. Well, dark humor, I guess. The Raymond G. Stanley Jr. Is he back on the... Oh, yeah, I am following him. That's fine. Okay. He says, quote, Carmel did what? And it's a picture of a basketball player. I'm pretty sure that's a sports balls athlete. Got 234 likes. Paul Suzupa says, quote, the only reason this isn't national news is because the races aren't reversed. Otherwise, it would be reported as a hate crime. Getting 469 likes. Sarah Smith says, say his name, Anthony Metcalf. And there's a picture of him in the sports balls jersey or the football jersey. I got 4.1 thousand likes. Mr. Pitbull, although I do not think is actual singer, he's still around, right? He says, quote, middle school track meet. I guess I should add the word allegedly. The perpetrator brought a knife to the middle school track meet. He stabbed someone over a seat at a middle school track meet, ? What level of retardation is this? Getting 3,000 likes, which, yeah, that is pretty low intellect and also low morality, too. It is astonishing how many people of races, I would argue, many races in the world get upset over the most rudimentary things that, in the grand scheme of things, mean absolutely nothing. When, like, cutting someone off in traffic or someone taking someone's seat at a theater. It is ridiculous. Ryan says, quote, racist crime should be charged as much, getting 5,000 likes. Which, again, I will see if there's any evidence of the perpetrators, yelling out the other guy's race. I'm not sure. Or maybe a social media post. Sometimes it's, right now we don't know if that's, I think you could argue the race is a variable in terms of why this isn't being covered by national outlets, for sure. However, in terms of proving the hate crime, you'd have to see, like, did this perpetrator have posts on social media with animosity against the Caucasians? That might be more difficult to prove in a court of law. We'll see. Though, again, in the United States, hate crimes, they're not really applied equally. You really don't see the reverse very often at all in terms of actually being prosecuted in court. Now, Mr. Pitbull also says, quote, it's obviously a tragedy for the family of the victim. It's also a loss for society. He was almost certainly to be a productive person, maybe a father one day. And now millions of taxpayer dollars will be wasted keeping this killer alive for the next 50 plus years, getting 4.2 thousand likes. Well, he's a minor, so I'm sure the judge, depending, if it's a liberal judge or a Soros judge, just give him a slap on the wrist and say, oh, he's a good boy, or he's mostly good, and some crap like that, and he just goes to juvie for like a year or something. Again, a lot of states don't, how do I get this not removed off the YouTube? Which is why you should listen on the Rumble or the Spotify, or Spotify, some people call it. I think Spotify sounds fancier, but yeah, in my opinion, not enough states utilize the mechanism of the option to give judges the option to assign the death penalty. Though I do understand there's a higher parameter, there's a higher requirement to prove that in court. Let's see here. You also have, I Love American News. It says, quote, Detroit. Michigan is proof that 6 decades of Democrat leadership causes more lasting damage than a nuclear bomb. There's a picture of Hiroshima, 1945 in 2010. Shows how the city, blew up. Though, well, I was going to say unintended dark humor. It was blown up, and then, economically it blew up into a thriving city. You have Detroit in 1945, and then 2010, it looks like a hellhole. Getting 2.2 thousand likes, and fact check, true. Although I'm told Detroit will make a comeback any day now. Just like the Chicago Bears. Haha, sports ball metaphor. I grew up in the Midwest, and every year the Bears fans would say, oh yeah, they got great defense. They'll be good next year. Every single year. Kind of like the city. They'll be good next year. Haha, it won't, statistically speaking or historically speaking, not getting better anytime soon. And again, this is one of those viral stories I've seen in weeks. And I guess we'll see what type of justice there is, and if in court they can actually prove this was race motivated. Again, right now we just know the two gentlemen were of different races. But let me know thoughts in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. And going over to the political part podcast, you have Representative Jasmine Crockett told her boss to hire her because she's black, thereby emitting DEI, which, yeah, of all the reasons to hire someone, I would never choose race, partially because I have, a modicum of intelligence and morality. I choose people based on the resume and their historic track record of success, as well as the variable of their attitude and their reputation. The most useless thing to choose someone, to hire someone would be race. So what? Especially when you hire sales reps, so that's pretty easy. What's your quota attainment last year? But she says, oh yeah, you should hire me because of my race, which, yeah, no, I don't think so. Now this comes to us thanks to End Wokeness on X, and he says, quote, ha ha ha, well, That's a lot of ha ha ha's. I don't know if I'll get it specifically right. Ha 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 ha. I think that's close enough. He says, quote, ha ha ha. Representative Jasmine Crockett just admitted she is a DEI hire. There she is, and at least she suited up, kind of. I don't know what she's wearing. Nah. At least she's dressed appropriately for public speaking, I suppose. I mean, the bar for her is so low. I guess that is giving her an accolade.
Say because you've been gracious. Say because you've been gracious. Is this. When I first became a public defender, I had no criminal defense experience. And I walked in and I told my boss, Charlie, I said, listen, you should hire me. He said, why? I said, because I'm black. Charlie looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah, he should have, and he should have not hired you. If you have no experience, and again, we all start somewhere in our careers. If you have literally no experience, no internships, no nothing, and you're saying hire me because I'm black, that's not a metric. It's not something you take and like quantify in terms of a metric of success. That has nothing to do with your metrics of success or your qualifications or your personality. Or you're saying hire me because, and apparently Charlie said yes. Because again, I can't believe and it's even more hilarious, she's admitting this out loud. So you're saying you got your big break in life not because of your character, your goodwill, your track record of success, or maybe your volunteering, any of those things. No, you got your big break in life because of your race, which is ridiculous. Now, this went pretty viral. I got 1.7 million views and 52,000 likes. Now, one of the first comments comes from assistant to the regional professional, Dunder Mifflin. Now, he actually says context matters. So this is actually 40 seconds long, so I'll play the whole thing. Spoiler alert, doesn't really add much.
The final thing that I'll say, because you've been gracious, is this. When I first became a public defender, I had no criminal defense experience. And I walked in and I told my boss, Charlie, I said, listen, you should hire me. He said, why? I said, because I'm black. Charlie looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, let me tell you something. When I walk in, I'm going to walk in with a level of rapport and understanding that maybe some of my other colleagues will not.
That has nothing to do with your race. That would be your character. I would argue that, but what does that have to do with being black?
Charlie offered me my job, and I worked my butt off, and I worked really, really hard for all of my clients, not just those that look like me. And that is what it looks like to.
I got 109 likes as well as 65 comments. That was the most commented comment, which I think is grammatically correct, though sounds awkward. Now, one of the first comments to that is from Dutch, saying, quote, even with the context, she still thinks she should get the job because of her. In fact, she is black. They got 168 likes. Now, assistant to the regional manager at Dunder Mifflin says, quote, no, she believed in herself because she was black. That's why she got the job. And it got 10 likes. So, as the youth may say, he was ratioed. I can't snap today. And Dutch did respond saying, quote, so if I believe myself because I'm white, I should get the job too. Getting 70 likes. And the assistant professor says, yeah, how do you expect someone to take you seriously if you don't believe in yourself? Believing in yourself is different than believing in your race. So he's clearly not getting it. And Trulio said, 85 IQ, can't comprehend what he's saying, getting 25 likes. Back to the main comment section, you have based electrician, A+ for marketing. You know what he does for a living. Though if he owns a small business, I wish he put like the business name so to support him. But nevertheless, he says, quote, has Representative Jasmine Crockett ever achieved anything without pulling the race card? They got 222 likes. Western Decline says, you should hire me. Why? Because I'm black. Yes, that's the literal definition of a DEI hire. And now she's holding one of the most highest ranking positions in the country. She's a perfect example of why the country has been turning to shit, getting 1.9 thousand likes. American 357, an excellent caliber, though in terms of what's more American, I can't help but think, God's caliber, the 45 ACP, can't be the stopping power of the 1911. Though ballistically, 9mm has gotten so good throughout the years, I know that argument is not as popular as it used to be. Now, he says, quote, I found one of Representative Jasmine Crockett's eyelashes. Is a picture of an old tire tread on the side of the road getting 159 likes, which that's a weird thing a lot of girls do. That's not unique, that's not only her. I'll never understand or really comprehend why women spend so much on things that most people do not care about. But yeah, it is one of the bizarre things that many women will do that. They'll buy the eyelashes that are like comically long and exaggerated. And to me, I just think that just looks uncomfortable and doesn't impress but nevertheless. You also have Sarah Smith says, go, imagine being hired only because of your skin color. There's a old meme from the 1950s, and some other daughter. The daughter goes, "Mom, what does DEI mean?" Mom goes, "Didn't earn it." Gained 260 likes. One of the best quotes I think is one of the best arguments against DEI is posted thanks to Nuke, who says, "Quote: Imagine this man coming back and see everything that has happened to his sacrifice." It's MLK Jr. And he, it's one of those infamous quotes, says, "Quote: I look to a day when people will not be judged by the color of the skin, but by the context of their character," getting 175 likes. I would also add to his quote, "and their achievements," or, their statistical success track record. I think it's more quantifiable when you're looking to, I know that, he's talking about society. I always have the perspective of businesses and hiring and stuff. Now, you also have, let's see here, Ruth Brown punching back at Representative Jasmine Crockett, who recently called Governor Greg Abbott of Texas Hot Wheels because he's in a wheelchair. Now, she has a sign that says, quote: "Abbott might be disabled from the waist down, but Crockett is disabled from the neck up." I got 67 likes. I also have someone who took Patrick Starr and gave him, I don't know what you call the nails gals wear. They're like 3 inches long and ridiculously unfunctional. But they gave Patrick Starr from the SpongeBob the nails, eyelashes, and lips. It says, "You should hire me because I'm black." That's credited to David Santa Clara, getting 710 likes. Jeez Louise, that's the most popular ones. You also have a couple of people with the photo compilation of all the pictures of Representative Jasmine Crockett and other Democrats pictured with George Soros' son. And yeah, I mean, saying the quiet part out loud. And I wonder, culturally speaking and politically, it's, illegal to hire someone because of their race. But we'll see if, culturally speaking, does just get her more, and politically speaking, does it get her some accolades, and will she use that clip for actually raising campaign funds and raising more money for the DNC, or is this eventually going to start backfiring as the average American doesn't believe in DEI? Let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have the DNC suing Donald Trump over his executive order to block non-citizens from voting, which, I wonder why they would do that. Well, obviously to cheat. Now, this is actually reposted by Elon, originally credited to Libs of TikTok. Libs of TikTok says, quote: "The DNC, Chuck Schumer, and Hakeem Jeffries are suing Donald Trump over his executive order to block non-citizens from voting. This should tell you everything you need to know." This is also, again, reposted by Elon Musk, who says, quote: "Wow." And there you can see the docket. Kind of gives you the breakdown of all the folks who are signing on. And it tells you the specific executive order. Now, this Pretty Vlog got 12.5 million views and 98,000 likes. And one of the first comments is from Anti-Woke Memes, or Memes, saying, quote: "Tucker Carlson was right." And Tucker Carlson has a quote from a couple years ago that says, quote: "The Democrat Party is a bunch of weak men and unhappy women." It got 292 likes. I would also add low T men. I can't help but think of Tim Walz. Yeah. You also have Gunther Eagleman says, quote: "This is treasonous," getting 2.8 thousand likes. The Texas one says, quote: "Democrats want power no matter how they get it," getting 170 likes. Barefoot Pregnant says, quote: "This is their desperate move to keep the system rigged. Trump's executive order to protect elections and ensure only citizens vote is exactly what America needs," getting 111, it's making 112 likes. There's a TikTok also says they want to cheat, getting 1.6 thousand likes. Scrolling down more and more. You have Amy Brenson saying, "Yeah, we sue here, Elon. Leave if you don't like it." A contrarian statement finally brewing to the surface, getting 54 likes. She also got the most comments, 168. Are they mostly agreeing with her? No. You build the wall. An oddly specific profile name says, quote: "Amy, just a suggestion. Think before you hit the reply button," getting 74 likes. Just Read the Facts says, quote: "Are you an attorney? Do you think you'd be smarter than that? You're pathetic for wanting to allow non-citizens to vote," getting 54 likes. You also have Molly Pitcher saying, quote: "Never forget the Democrats fight for illegals instead of Americans." There's a little picture that says, quote: "158 Democrats in the House voted not to deport illegal convicted." I'm trying to keep this show mildly family friendly, so I'll change the vernacular so it's family friendly, but you still understand. So I'll say 158 Democrats in the House voted not to deport illegals who are convicted of hurting children in the worst possible way. And that got 875 likes, 78 likes, going up like a stock. Well, not most stocks these days, but some, not many. Scrolling down more and more. Mirthful Moments says Chuck Schumer is running a criminal conspiracy to terrorize political opponents, prosecute him and his financiers under RICO statutes, nothing less. There's a hard to say who's creepier, George Soros' son or Chuck Schumer in that picture, getting 475 likes. Both look creepy as hell, but they did suit up. They did something right. So again, we'll be interested to see how this plays out in court. But I mean, shoot, I don't help but wonder if only people with IDs could vote, or only U.S. IDs that prove their citizenship could vote in elections. I mean, shoot, what would the elections look like from here going forward? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political blunder of the day, or business blunder of the day, is, well, Polaris, they're recalling their off-road vehicles because, whoopsies, they forgot to use fasteners. Again, click that subscribe button. It may very well might help with my speaking ineptitudes. When I first started the show, I spoke faster than Ben Shapiro and more awkward than Joe Biden trying to climb upstairs. However, as I got more and more subscribers, I slowly but surely improved. My argue is just a micro improvement, but statistically improvement nevertheless, leading to my theory, the more people that click that button, the better the show will get. Now, this is brought to us thanks to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, perhaps the only useful government website. Granted, the bar is pretty damn low. Now, they say, quote, Polaris Industries recalls RZR, Pro R, and Pro R4 recreational off-road vehicles, ROVS, due to an injury hazard. And here you can see their off-road vehicles, which look really cool. Looks like it's out of a Halo 2 video game. Well, I just dated myself back in the day. Now, the issue is, whoops, the fasteners on the vehicle's rollover protective structure, pillar joints, may be missing or loose and fail to protect the occupants if the vehicle rolls over or tips over. This poses an injury hazard. And apparently this affected 910 units in addition to the 10 of them that are sold in Canada, or some people call it Canada. And whoops, you just forgot the fastener in some cases, which, again, that's one of the most pathetic manufacturing errors I could think of, because these are literally off-road vehicles that not all of them will be flipped over, but a not insignificant percentage of them are going to be used as intended. They're going to be going through the mud, going through rocks, well, on top of rocks. If they're really strong, they'll break through the rocks, but they're going to be flipping over and flipping all over and all out and about. And it looks like that column right there, they just forgot in some cases to even put it in. This is where the serial number is, so you can check your individual to see if it's affected. Now, the remedy says, quote, consumers should immediately stop using the recalled vehicles and contact the Polaris dealership for a free inspection and repair at the vehicle's location. Polaris advises that consumers may continue to operate them prior to inspection or repair at the dealership, but only if they conduct an inspection by following the ROPS fastener identification instructions located on the firm's website, and the consumer finds the fasteners on the pillar joints are secure and in place while they're waiting for the repair to be completed at the dealer. They know that Polaris has contacted registered owners directly. Unfortunately, there's been some instance. They know that, quote, the firm has identified 2 vehicles with missing fasteners and 1 vehicle with a missing fastener that was not tightened. Thankfully, though, there's no actual injuries that have been reported as of yet. Now, I was going to say, we'll see how long these will be able to get in America without a big tariff, because it's not a car, but this is made in Mexico as the origin of manufacturer, the recall number being at 25-208. Again, 25-208. And what gets me is, I'm pretty frugal, the price. These are sold at Polaris dealerships nationwide between November 2021 and January 2025 for between $32,000 and $50,000, which I understand some of these can be used on farms in terms of like a business expense for logistics, transportation. I understand the use case for that, but $32,000, that is the price of a brand new Honda Civic Si. It comes with a stick shift. It's awesome. A little biased. I love my Honda. So you can get, this is the price of a real car, if not more. $50,000. That's a really nice used Porsche. And for that much money, they forgot a fastener on the roll cage, which again, that's one of the most important safety mechanisms, not just for the track, but these types of off-road vehicles. For $32,000 to $50,000, in some cases they just forgot the fastener, or they didn't, fasten it correctly. Man, I'd be irate if I were an owner. But again, thankfully there's someone who had a situation, no one's been hurt from it. So again, silver lining, that's good. But to have a vehicle or a toy, let's be honest, that costs between $32,000 and $50,000 and not have the best safety and best inspections, bar none, I gotta say, Polaris, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.